On July 8, 2026, xAI released Grok 4.5. And within a day, the claims were everywhere. 8 trillion and a half parameters. Beats Opus 4.8 on real coding benchmarks. Uses a quarter of the tokens to do it. If you follow AI news even a little, you have seen numbers like this before. And you have learned to be skeptical. Because half the time they do not hold up outside the marketing slide. So today we are doing what this channel always does. We are going to actually look at what Grok 4.5 is. What it is genuinely good at. Where the claims get shaky. And whether it deserves a place in your toolkit or just a scroll past. Let us sort the signal from the noise. Let us start with the basics. Because the headline number, 8 trillion and a half parameters, tells you almost nothing on its own. Grok 4.5 is a mixture of experts model. Which means it is not one giant network processing every request, it is more like a large team of smaller specialist networks. And for any given question, only a handful of them actually activate. That is why a model this large can still respond quickly and relatively cheaply. It is not doing 1.5 trillion parameters of work every single time. It is doing a fraction of that, routed to whichever experts are best suited to your particular request. The detail that actually matters here is what xAI trained it on. A meaningful part of its training data came from Cursor, the AI coding tool. Meaning real developer sessions, real edits, real back and forth with actual codebases. That is different from training mostly on public code repositories and documentation. It is trained on the messy, iterative process of someone actually building something, which is a plausible explanation for why it is landing hard on coding specific benchmarks. Here is the specific claim worth examining. On Terminal Bench 2.1, a benchmark that tests whether a model can actually complete real command line encoding tasks, not just talk about them. Grok 4.5 scored 83.3%. And it did that using roughly 25% of the output tokens that Opus 4.8 needed for comparable tasks. Let that sit for a second. Because that second number is actually the more interesting one. A model scoring well is not new. Every lab claims a benchmark win somewhere. A model scoring well while using a quarter of the tokens is a genuine efficiency claim. And efficiency is what determines whether running an AI agent on a real task costs you cents or costs you dollars. If that number holds up under independent testing, it means Grok 4.5 is not just competitive on capability. It is meaningfully cheaper to actually run at the same capability level. That is the kind of number that changes which model makes sense for high-volume agentic work. Not just which one wins a leaderboard screenshot. Now, the part the launch thread will not tell you. First, Terminal Bench is one benchmark. And it is specifically a coding and command line benchmark. A model tuned hard on developer workflows, especially one trained on Cursor sessions, should be expected to do well here. That does not automatically tell you how it performs on writing, reasoning about ambiguous business problems, or long multi-step planning outside of code. Second, benchmark scores at launch are reported by the lab that built the model. xAI has an obvious incentive to publish the comparison that makes Grok 4.5 look best. Independent, third-party benchmark runs typically land a few points lower than launch day claims. Sometimes significantly lower. That is not an accusation of dishonesty. It is just how every single model launch in this industry has worked for the last 3 years. Wait for outside verification before you treat any single number as settled fact. And third, a model trained heavily on one tool's usage data. Cursor in this case, can end up narrowly excellent at the exact style of task that tool produces. And less impressive the moment your workflow looks different from that. So does Grok 4.5 earn a spot in your toolkit? If you are a developer already living inside cursor-style AI-assisted coding workflows, this is genuinely worth testing this week, because it may be optimized for exactly your use case. And the token efficiency claim, if it holds, could meaningfully cut your running costs. If your work is mostly outside coding, writing, research, general business tasks, I would not switch based on this launch alone. Wait 2 to 3 weeks for independent benchmark runs and real user reports outside of xAI's own posts. And if you are just AI curious and trying to pick one model to learn on, this is not the one to start with. Grok 4.5 is a specialist story right now, not a general purpose one. And specialist stories need specialist evidence before you trust them. Quick recap. Grok 4.5 is a large mixture of experts model, trained heavily on real coding sessions, claiming strong results on Terminal Bench 2.1 at a fraction of the token cost of Opus 4.8. The efficiency claim is the genuinely interesting part. If it survives independent testing. The catch is that launch day numbers are self-reported, narrowly scoped to coding, and have a track record of shrinking once outside labs run their own tests. So, signal or noise? Right now, this is signal with an asterisk. The efficiency direction is real and worth watching. The specific numbers are not yet verified. Test it if coding is your world. Wait if it is not. I will follow up once independent benchmarks land. Subscribe if you want the verified version of this story instead of the launch day hype. Signal from the noise. Every week.